What's going on YouTube? It's shrutikmk back with another YouTube video. I am really tired right now, but if you want to get right into the life updates, then stay tuned. If not, skip to this timestamp right here. No hard feelings. As a scripting this video, I recently won a local in NorCal after a little bit of a short little trip there, and I ended up beating the number 6 and 18 players in the region, so I'm glad to see that I kind of still got it, you know, just a little bit. But yeah, college is finally wrapping up for me. Just a couple weeks left and I'll be done with my freshman year, so I'm so excited for that. Over the summer, we're going to be definitely focusing a little bit more on the content grind just for you guys. I know you guys fuck with the content and YouTube's really a passion of mine, so I really want to go harder on this. Please let me know if you have any suggestions in the comments below. Just DM me on Twitter or Instagram if you have any specific requests. I got you. But yeah, furthermore, just, you know, over the summer, let's try to put out a couple more videos, get a bigger community going on. It's gonna be lit. I'm ready for it. Today I want to kind of go over what makes a consistent character in this game. Of course, this is literally just my opinion, so if you disagree, put a comment below. Let's have a discussion, productive preferably. So first things first, what even is consistency? To me, consistency is minimizing variability in your tournament results. For example, you're always winning, or you're always barely placing outside top 8. Regardless of the quality of your placements, you are kind of placing around the same area each time. The variability, on the other hand, is making top 8 at a super major one day, but getting 129th at another one just a couple months before. That is variability. Consistency in competition is really tough because you never know how you're gonna feel the day of the competition. Like, you know, day right before you're chilling, you're feeling great, but the day of you're like, shit man, I'm about to vomit. More than that, like specific brackets let you get, you know, some nicer matchups, while other times you might get, you know, Nightmare Scenario 1 and Nightmare Scenario 2. Furthermore, Smash Ultimate has like gajillion matchups in it, so although it's kind of easy to get a general idea of what each character does, understanding each character's win condition, gimmicks, abilities, and combo game is almost an essential towards understanding this game and achieving success in it. Not knowing what to do against a specific character can be super destructive, especially if you face a character specialist that is super technical. All that being said, I believe consistency boils down to one specific thing. This is two fingers, one specific thing, which is how oppressive can you be towards your opponent. This kind of segues into why I think certain characters can be more consistent than others. But let's rewind, like what even is oppressiveness, right? To me, oppressiveness means your opponent doesn't really have amazing counterplay to whatever you're throwing at them, and consequently the risk reward is perpetually skewed in your favor. So what this means is that characters and players who can come up with a strategy that universally works against the cast will gravitate towards greater levels of consistency. Well, that was really complicated, so let's get an example up in here because that was a little brain fry moment. Let's compare Sonic and Palutena, right? Don't get me wrong, both are absurdly broken, but one is definitely more consistent than the other. Well, what is Sonic's game plan against Donkey Kong, for example, right? Well, you want to whiff punish DK, and then upon getting a lead, you kind of want to play defensively, force him to overextend, hit him for it, and just kind of snowball using your punish game. Okay, checks out. What is Sonic's game plan against Lucina? Well, you kind of just want to whiff punish, and then force her to overextend, and then use your punish game to snowball your lead, right? Okay, well, what is your game plan against Samus? Well, we kind of just avoid the projectiles, whiff punish them, and then use Sonic's great evasiveness to snowball her by punishing her overextensions. Okay, well, let's take those same two characters. What do we do as Palu, right? Well, as Palu, we're mainly avoiding the grab as DK. We kind of want to combo him using the Nair. We're going to use our offstage game and our ledge trapping to beat him, right? Okay, what about Lucina? Well, Lucina, she jumps a lot, so we're going to anti-air her a lot. We're going to use our zoning to keep her on her toes. Then we're going to use like a back air upper to kind of close out the stock. Well, what about Samus? Well, against Samus, we're going to just kind of counter zone her. We're going to need ledge trapper because her corner options aren't the best. We can combo her as well. I hope you guys noticed the difference in what I just said. With Sonic, I just said the same 3 things over and over and over again. With Palu, I described a pretty robust game plan that has intricacies based on 3 characters I mentioned, right? So Sonic does the same thing regardless of the matchup, while Palu has to kind of work around it. Consequently, Sonic is going to be more consistent than Palutena. I made a quick list of my rough approximation about how consistent a character is in a tournament setting. While this was partially inspired by Mudace's video, which kind of just set the whole Smash community on fire, took it by storm, essentially, I did disagree with a couple of his takes, so I want to kind of create my own list. I could be wrong because obviously I'm not a specialist of every single character in the game. So, you know, if you disagree, drop a comment below. Let's have a discussion. Educate me, you know? First thing I want you to notice is the types of characters in the first 2 tiers. These characters generally approach every single matchup in the same way or play their own minigame, like they don't really play Smash. People might disagree with me for characters like Bowser, Ice Climbers, Mario, Cloud, because they do have some matchups where they have to play really differently. But I think for the most part, regarding the vast majority of the cast, they still do the same thing to pretty much everybody. So, you know, we have Kazuya, for example, right? All he wants to do is land electric and then one-tap you. All Pac-Man really wants to do is just box you out, sit behind Hydra and get the right fruit for the scenario and then nuke you. All Hero wants to do is just sit back, stack up his buffs, and nuke you, right? The point is, regardless of the situation, all these characters do is the same thing. They don't care about your character's win con. They don't care about what you do to threaten them. They just care about what they have to do as opposed to what you and they have to do. It's the exact same game plan, no matter what. This kind of segues into the next tier, which is the easy to win with tier. These characters can struggle to find their win condition in specific matchups and usually have some sort of universal counterplay, but once they find their win condition, it's still like a single player game. Like, you can't really do anything. Something I might get cooked for is putting Dr. Mario in this tier, and to me, Dr. Mario and Incineroar are pretty much the same character, I'm not gonna lie to you. Absurdly strong moves, check. Bread and butters, check. Of course, like, his recovery is comically bad and way worse than Incineroar's, but his neutral via his frame data is pretty solid. And of course, the two grapplers of DK and Incineroar here as well, they pretty much just get their ass beat the whole game and then they find a way to grab you and cheese you comically early. So yeah, moving on to the next tiers, which are just like the normal characters. These characters generally have to adjust their game plan to what their opponent is doing at all times, or else they'll kind of just lose. I'm not saying these characters are bad by any means. Do not get me mixed up. Like, I think Fox is disgustingly overpowered. But at the same time, it's undeniable that these characters are way more susceptible to getting matchup checked or cheesed or gimmicked, right? The upper of the two tiers, the better than normal characters, can certainly autopilot a lot more than just the normal characters in specific winning matchups. And this is especially due to how they have especially deadly tools that can overcome bad matchups for them. But then the normal characters can pretty much not autopilot at all, unless they're playing one of their best matchups, like a +2. The next tier of characters are what I like to call the +2 -2 characters, which is they either hard win or they hard lose, no in between. The only character I'm really unsure about, that I didn't feel great about putting in this tier, is Zero Suit Samus. ZSS is objectively a very good character, really good results, but sometimes he just doesn't work, and that is not something that you want to worry about in a tournament setting. After the nerfs, her hitboxes, you know, just aren't as great as they used to be, and her neutral isn't nearly as oppressive. And on a more subjective note, I just never thought ZSS was as good as people said she was, but, you know, results don't lie, I guess, right? And then the last couple characters, just characters which I think you can just randomly lose with. You know, Ganondorf and Pichu, right? These characters still do have, you know, extremely cheesy things that can take stocks pretty early, but, you know, for Pichu, for example, he dies absurdly early and it's really easy to two-frame him, while Ganondorf just has comically bad mobility. You know, it's Ganondorf, you know, well, there's no way he's not bad, right? There is another aspect of consistency, which is a lot more in your hands, which I do want to go over. I think an important case study of this is NorCal's #4 player and one of the best Nest players in the world, Nestboy12. Nestboy is a homie, which is how I know sometimes he has bad days. Consequently, he's just like everyone else, you know? There are days where he drops his combos, he gets spaced out, you know, he just might not be on his A game. Despite this, he's managed to become one of the most consistent players in NorCal. In my opinion, and based on my interactions with him, what Nestboy is able to do is he's kind of able to minimize his neutral interactions in terms of he's able to cash out really hard every single time he wins neutral. His oppressive advantage state is enabled via his tricky movement, which allows him to bait out specific options. On top of this, Nest himself also kind of helps Nestboy out, as his lingering aerials, strong ledge trapping ability, as well as an auto answer to every low recovery in the game makes his stage control even more deadly. And then, you know, there's kind of the spiritual side to it, right? Let's talk about mentality. Nestboy has a really healthy mentality towards the game. In his own words, he goes in tournaments with the same kind of viewpoint every single time. Just try my best. He tries to avoid negative thoughts and negative energy, and this allows him to kind of play at his peak every single time. On top of this, he's very confident in his autopilot, which means that when he needs to adapt, he can do so without stretching his brain too much. So part of it comes down to player skill as well. How good are you at dealing with uncomfortable situations? How far can you push your advantage state? How deadly are you with punishing universally bad options? These aspects all go into consistency. It can even come to a point where you can bypass matchup unfamiliarity with an oppressive enough advantage state. After all, just don't give your opponent a chance to play the game and you'll win. This kind of reroutes back to the hugest conversation, which is like, consistency is tough, but how can we improve it? That's a really good question, and it kind of just boils down to creating a really solid and almost impenetrable game plan with your character. If you theory craft well enough, which is super important for your character, by the way, then you can create a universal game plan against most, if not every character, which will help you out a lot. Just kind of think really hard, you know, like what's my opponent afraid of? What am I looking for? What are they looking for? How can I force my win condition to become prevalent right now? How do I become the alpha? But you know, jokes aside, that's pretty much, you know, all I really had to say about this. You know, like, what's your guys' take on advanced state and becoming more oppressive and consistency in Smash Ultimate? I would love to hear your thoughts on kind of what I proposed. This is definitely more experimental, kind of just sneak peek into my brain how I think about the game type video. So if you fucked with it, be sure to support me on Twitter and Instagram at shrutikmk, as well as dropping a like and subscribe on the video so I know what kind of content you guys are into. As usual, thank you so much to my editor for making this possible. Could not have done it without you. That's pretty much all I had to say. I'm extremely tired, but I got an essay to do, so we're gonna get on that. But yeah, Shrutik out. I love you guys. Thank you so much.